I died on a rainy Tuesday in Seattle, my body slamming into the cold asphalt of the I-5 freeway like a discarded prototype. 8 years of code and coffee stains erased in one skid of tires and a semi-truck's blare. The betrayal hit harder than the impact. My best friend, my mentor, the man I'd called family, had fired me via email for missing his kid's birthday party after I'd built their billion-dollar app from scratch in a dingy garage. And now, as my vision tunneled to black, his last words echoed, "You're replaceable,
Anna."
always were. But death wasn't the end. It was a goddamn reset button. I woke up gasping in my old Queen Anne apartment. The year 2018. My hands young and unscarred. Staring at the calendar on my fridge. August 15th, the day before it all went to hell. Heart pounding like I'd just chugged a Red Bull for. I stumbled to the bathroom mirror, expecting the hollow-eyed wreck from my final days. Instead, my reflection was me at 28, sharp jawline, wild auburn curls tied back in a no bullshit ponytail, green eyes that hadn't yet learned to flinch. "Holy shit," I whispered, gripping the sink until my knuckles whitened. This wasn't a dream. The faint scar from that biking accident in college was still there on my left knee, the one I'd gotten showing off for Jake at Golden Gate Park.
Jake.
My stomach twisted. He was the one who'd pulled the trigger, figuratively, at least. TechForge, the app that connected freelancers to gigs and turned into a unicorn overnight, was my baby. I'd coded the first lines while crashing on his couch, fueled by his promises of equity and partnership. 8 years later, he diluted my shares to zero, blamed my lack of team spirit on skipping little Timmy's third birthday bash because I was pulling an all-nighter to fix a server crash that saved the company millions.
Fired.
Blackballed. And when the vultures picked my bones clean, I'd driven off that bridge. Not suicidal.
Just. Done. But now?
Now I was back. Armed with every dirty secret, every late-night email chain, every whispered boardroom deal that screwed me over. The universe, or whatever glitch in the matrix, had given me a do-over. And I wasn't wasting it on therapy or forgiveness. No. This time, Jake Harlan was going to learn what irreplaceable really meant. I splashed water on my face, the cool droplet shocking my skin like a slap. My phone buzzed on the counter, a text from him. "Hey, birthday party's tomorrow. Don't flake this time? Team needs you." I laughed, a bitter bark that echoed off the tiles.
Oh.
I'd be there.
All right.
But not as the loyal code monkey. As the wolf in programmer's clothing. By noon, I'd already cracked open my laptop, fingers flying over the keys like they remembered the betrayal better than my brain. TechForge's codebase was still in beta back then, a messy sprawl of Python and React that only I fully understood. I'd buried Easter eggs in there, harmless backdoors for debugging.
But now?
They were my skeleton keys. First things first, document everything. I pulled up the old server logs from my mental Rolodex, recreating the timestamps of every all-nighter I'd logged while Jake schmoozed investors in Palo Alto. The birthday skip? It was bullshit. I'd emailed him at 2 a.m., apologizing, promising to make it up with a custom drone for Timmy. He never replied because he was too busy plotting with the board to phase me out. Evidence. I needed mountains of it. Time-stamped and ironclad. The kind that would make a jury weep, or at least make his lawyers sweat. I stepped out into the drizzly Seattle afternoon, the Space Needle looming like a judgmental finger in the distance. Pike Place Market was buzzing with tourists haggling over salmon and flowers, the air thick with salt and espresso. I grabbed a black coffee from the original Starbucks. Irony not lost on me. Starting over at ground zero and sat on a bench, plotting. Jake was charming. That was his weapon. All Ivy League smiles and TED Talk charisma. The kind of guy who quoted Steve Jobs while underpaying his devs. We'd met at a hackathon in '09. I was the scrappy dropout from UW. He the Stanford golden boy with VC connections. "You're a genius, Anna," he'd said, eyes twinkling over craft IPAs. "Let's build something world-changing." And we did. TechForge exploded. Freelancers loved the seamless matching algorithm I'd slaved over. The one that predicted gigs with eerie accuracy. By 2017, we were valued at $1 billion, me holding 40% on paper. Until the restructuring. He diluted me down to advisor status. Then axed that when I wouldn't sign an NDA burying the real numbers. My phone rang, Mom. Calling from her bungalow in Tacoma. "Annabug, you sound off. Everything okay at work?" Her voice was warm, laced with that Pacific Northwest worry. The kind that came from raising a single mom's kid on teacher's salary and sheer grit. I swallowed the lump in my throat. In my first life, she'd buried me, blaming herself for not seeing the signs.
Yeah. Ma. Just.
Gearing up for a big party tomorrow.
Lie.
But a necessary one. I couldn't tell her yet. She'd drag me to therapy or church. And I didn't have time for redemption arcs. This was war. That night, I barely slept, the apartment's creaky radiator hissing like a co-conspirator. I dove into the dark web, forums I'd frequented in my paranoia post-firing. Places where whistleblowers traded tips on corporate espionage. Not that I was going full Snowden, no. This was personal. I set up anonymous accounts, seeding doubts about TechForge's ethical sourcing of user data. Subtle at first, a leaked memo, faked, but based on real practices, suggesting they sold freelancer profiles to headhunters without consent. By morning, Reddit's r/technology was buzzing, and Jake's Twitter mentions were lighting up with pitchfork emojis. Step 1. Erode trust. Make him jumpy. The birthday party was at his sprawling Bellevue mansion. All glass walls and lake views. The kind of McMansion that screamed, "I made it."
Fuck you.
I arrived fashionably late, in a thrift store blazer that hid my trembling hands, carrying a wrap drone bigger than Timmy's head. Kids swarmed the backyard bounce house. Parents clustered around charcuterie boards like hyenas at a kill. Jake spotted me from across the patio. His grin wide but eyes wary. Had he felt the online ripples already? "Anna, you made it." He pulled me into a hug that smelled of axe and ambition, his hand lingering a beat too long on my back.
Creep.
In life one, I'd chalked it up to bro vibes. Now, it felt like reconnaissance. We small-talked through cake and piñatas, me nodding along as he bragged about the latest funding round. Investors are eating it up. We're talking IPO by next year. Bullshit. I knew the real story. He'd been cooking the books, inflating user metrics to lure in Sequoia. But I played along, laughing at his jokes, even flirting a little. Old habits die hard. Then, as the sun dipped low, painting the lake in bloody oranges, I dropped the first real bomb. "Hey, Jake, remember that server crash last month? The one I fixed solo?" His smile faltered. "Yeah, lifesaver." "Why?" I leaned in, voice low. "Pulled some logs this morning. Turns out, someone accessed the core all go without auth. Thought you'd want to know before the board does." His face drained of color. Atoms apple bobbing.
What?
That's impossible.
Oh,
It was possible because I just planted the seed, a digital breadcrumb leading straight to his private VPN. By midnight, as I drove back through the rain-slicked streets, my phone lit up with his texts. WTF, Anna?
we need to talk. Now.
I smiled into the darkness. Game on, asshole. This was just the appetizer. The main course? Watching him choke on his own lies. The next week blurred into a frenzy of calculated chaos. My days a double life of coffee-fueled coding sprints and midnight manifesto writing.
By day.
I was Anna 1.0, the reliable lead dev, volunteering for every grunt task at TechForge Seattle HQ, a converted warehouse with exposed brick and ping-pong tables that screamed startup chic. I debugged legacy code, mentored the new hires, poor saps who didn't know they were building someone else's empire, and flashed smiles at stand-ups that hid the venom bubbling underneath. Great work on the matching tweak, Anna, Jake would say, clapping my shoulder like we were still bros. I'd nod, all earnest Midwestern politeness, thanks to Mom's Wisconsin roots bleeding through, while mentally filing away his tells, the way his left eye twitched when he lied about headcount, the forced laugh when VCs probed margins. Nights were for the real me, the ghost who'd clawed back from oblivion. I'd hole up in my apartment, windows fogged from takeout steam, and weave the web. First, I reached out to old allies, freelancers I'd championed, now scattered across LinkedIn like shrapnel from the explosion I'd caused. Hey, remember that glitchy payout system? Got docs proving it was intentional throttling. Lies wrapped in half-truths. Enough to spark lawsuits that would bleed TechForge dry. Sarah from Austin, a graphic designer I'd hooked up with a fat gig back in 14. Bit first. Anna, if this is real, those bastards shorted me $20K. By Friday, her cease and desist was filed. Anonymous for now, but the ripples hit Jake's inbox like shrapnel. He called an emergency all hands, his face on the Zoom feed pale under the ring light. Folks, rumors are flying. But we're family here. Right, Anna? The camera panned to me. I gave a thumbs up, heart racing with dark glee. Family. Yeah, the kind that eats its young. The betrayal cut deeper the more I dug, unearthing skeletons I'd buried in my first go-round. Jake hadn't just diluted my shares, he'd forged my signature on the advisor waiver, using a scan doc from a team-building retreat in Tahoe. I'd found it too late then, post-firing, when my lawyer laughed me out of his office. No proof.
Kid.
He's got the best sharks in the bay.
Now?
I had time. I hacked his personal Dropbox, child's play with a phishing email disguised as a kid's soccer invite, and there it was, the original, time-stamped, with my real e-sign buried under his digital forgery. Jackpot. But revenge wasn't just about proof, it was psychological warfare. American style. The kind cooked up in boardrooms and back-alley bars from Wall Street to Hollywood. That's when I made my first controversial call, leak to the press. Not some rag, no. I went straight to Kara Swisher at Recode, the queen of tech takedowns. I'd met her once at a conference, back when I was still starstruck. An anonymous tip from a burner proton mail, TechForge's golden boy faked docs to screw co-founder. Freelancers getting hosed. More if you bite. She did. Faster than a VC sniffing Series A. By Monday, the headline screamed, Unicorn's dirty laundry. Equity theft at TechForge? Jake's stock plummeted 15% in after hours. He blamed bad actors, but his eyes were bloodshot in the next meeting, barking orders like a cornered dog. Anna, you're on damage control. Draft a blog post. I did, laced with just enough truth to pass muster. But footnotes that, if anyone dug, pointed to his VPN logs.
Subtle sabotage.
The art of the long con. But Jake wasn't stupid. He was a snake. Coiled and venomous. That Thursday, he cornered me in the kitchenette. The hum of the espresso machine masking our words. "What's your angle? Anna, you've been
Off.
His breath was minty, eyes probing like he could scan my soul. In life, one. I'd crumbled here, spilling apologies for the birthday thing, begging for my job back.
Now?
I met his gaze, channeling every ounce of that Seattle grit. Just burned out.
Jake.
You know how it is. 8 years grinding for the dream. I paused, letting it sink. But hey, if the dream's changing, maybe I need a bigger slice. He chuckled, but it was forced. A tell. You're irreplaceable.
Kid.
Stick with me. Irreplaceable. The word that haunted my deathbed. I smiled, clinking my mug against his. Always. The real gut punch came weekend style, buried in a bottle of Napa Cab at my apartment. I'd invited Lena over, my one true ride or die. A product manager who jumped ship post-firing in the original timeline, calling Jake a sociopath in chinos. We split pizza on the couch, her blonde bob swinging as she vented about the latest board drama. He's pushing this AI overhaul. Says it'll disrupt the disruptors. But it's vaporware.
Anna.
You're the only one who can build it right. My cue. I feigned casual. What if I told you I knew why the payouts glitch? Her eyes widened. I showed her the docs. Not all. Just enough to hook. By dawn, she was in. Our pact sealed with high fives and hangovers. Allies multiplied. A shadow network forming under TechForge's nose. As October crept in, leaves turning fiery in Discovery Park,
The pressure mounted.
Jake's wife, Claire, perfect step forward with her yoga pants and realtor side hustle, started texting me concerned mom vibes. Jake stressed. Hon. The party's still on for Timmy's next one. Subtext, keep quiet. Or else. I played along, sending emojis and excuses. But inside, rage simmered, hot and unyielding. The secret I'd chiseled from his files that week, he'd been siphoning freelancer tips into a slush fund for his political donors, quiet cash to back anti-gig economy regs that would crush competitors while padding TechForge's moat. Hypocrite. The man who'd preached "empower the little guy" was the biggest leech in the valley. My next move was riskier. The kind that could land me in federal pound-me-in-the-ass prison, and bet a Trojan in the next deploy. Not destructive, I'm no script kiddie, but a logger that mirrored every exec keystroke to my offshore server. Controversial? Hell yes. Ethical? In a world where billionaires play God with our data, who gives a fuck? I pushed it during a late-night merge, heart hammering as the CI/CD pipeline hummed green. Success. That night, as rain lashed my windows, I watched the feeds roll in, Jake's frantic searches for equity dilution laws, emails to his fixer lawyer about silencing leaks, and one buried gem, a thread with a VC shark, offering to buy me out preemptively. Neutralize the founder risk, it read. Founder.
Me.
They knew. Sleep evaded me. Ghosts of the bridge whispering doubts. Was this justice? Or just spite? Mom called again, her voice tinny over the line. Come home for Thanksgiving. Bug. You sound like you're carrying the world. I lied smooth, busy saving it.
Ma.
But as I hung up, staring at the city lights smearing like accusations. I wondered if I'd become the monster. No time for philosophy. Jake's birthday loomed. Irony of ironies. Mine too. The day he'd celebrate by announcing my demotion in the first timeline. This year, I'd crash it with confetti and cyanide truths. November hit like a freight train. Thanksgiving turkey turning to ash in my mouth as Mom's dining room filled with aunts and uncles swapping small-town gossip. Heard you're some big-shot coder now. Annie, Uncle Ray boomed, his flannel straining over a beer gut. I forced a grin, passing the mashed potatoes. Just pixels and prayers. Uncle Ray. Truth was, I was a powder keg with a lit fuse. Every family hug a reminder of what I'd lost, what I'd almost lost again. Back in Seattle by Sunday, the city felt smaller. Walls closing in as TechForge's holiday party invites pinged my inbox. Festive Forge. Deck the algorithms. Jake's flourish. All eggnog and forced cheer. I'd go. Of course. Armageddon in a Santa hat. The logs from my Trojan were a gold mine, painting Jake as Machiavellian khakis. He'd been grooming a protege, slick-haired bro named Tyler. Fresh from Google, to shadow me on the AI pivot. Shadow?
Replace.
Emails dripped with condescension. Anna's solid. But Tyler's got that killer instinct. Instinct my ass. Tyler was a yes man with a CS degree and zero soul. I'd mentored him last week, walking him through the neural net I'd architected, only to catch him screenshotting my whiteboard scribbles for his notes. In Life 1, he'd been the knife in my back, testifying at the arbitration that I'd lost my edge.
Now?
I fed him bad data, subtle bugs that would make his demos flop spectacularly. Controversial? Sabotaging a colleague? In corporate America. It was Tuesday. Lena and I met in a dim Capitol Hill dive bar that Wednesday, nursing IPAs amid vinyl records and hipster beards. He's spiraling, she whispered, sliding me a USB drive. Board minutes. He's floating a buyout for the whole company. To that VC douche. Harlan's old Stanford buddy. My blood ran cold. The secret within the secret. Jake wasn't just greedy, he was desperate. The slush fund? It funded a mistress in the city. Penthouse romps while Claire played soccer mom. Photos. Timestamps, Lena's handiwork. Swiped from his cloud during a team lunch. Use it, she urged. Or we walk. I pocketed the drive. The weight like lead. Blackmail? The line blurred. But so did right and wrong when you'd stare down death. The party was at the Hyatt's ballroom. Downtown glitter under chandeliers that dripped like fake diamonds. I showed up in a red sheath dress, bold. A nana, curls loose and lips stained like war paint. Jake was holding court by the open bar, arm around Claire. Timmy tugging at his slacks. Anna, you clean up nice. His eyes raked me, lingering south of polite.
Pig.
We clinked flutes, the champagne fizzing like my nerves. Small talk flowed, funding rounds, holiday plans. Then, as the DJ spun some millennial remix of Jingle Bells, I leaned in. Congrats on the buyout talks. Bold move. His flute froze mid-sip, bubbles popping audibly. What talks? Denial. But his twitch betrayed him. I shrugged. All innocence. Overheard Tyler. Sounded lucrative. Panic flickered. He excused himself, dragging Tyler to a corner for a hushed chew-out. That's when the high came, the raw, electric thrill of the hunt. I circulated, charming the board, silver-haired suits with Rolexes and receding ethics. Mrs. Ellis, the token woman, cornered me by the dessert table. Anna.
Dear.
Jake says you're key to the AI push. But whispers. Equity issues. Her eyes were sharp, appraising. Opportunity. Whispers are just that, Mrs.
E.
But if you want the real code, literally, I'm your girl. I slipped her a card. Innocuous but QR-linked to a teaser deck of my independent prototype. The one I'd been building in shadows. A fork of TechForge's core. Open-sourced in my mind but proprietary in execution. Seed planted. Midnight brought the twist I hadn't scripted. Jake cornered me on the balcony. City lights sprawling like a circuit board below. Wind whipped my dress. His tie fluttered like a noose. What the fuck are you doing? Anna? Voice low. Venomous. The charm stripped bare. The leaks. The logs, it's you. Isn't it? Heart slamming. I met his glare. No more games. 8 years.
Jake.
I built this from nothing. You stole it. He laughed. Bitter and broken. Stole?
You were a glorified intern.
I made you. Lies. But laced with truth, the ugly kind. He stepped closer. Breath hot. Drop it. Or I'll bury you. Again. They again hung. A confession wrapped in threat. He knew I'd suspected the forgery. Worse. He'd orchestrated the bridge somehow. Break lines? No proof. But the implication chilled me. I shoved past, heels clicking fury on marble. But his hand snagged my wrist, hard enough to bruise. We're family, remember? The word twisted like a knife. I yanked free, storming inside, Lena's eyes questioning from across the room. That night, in my car, rain sheeting the windshield, I cracked. Sobs racked me, not for him, but for the girl I'd been, trusting, hungry, American dream incarnate. But dawn brought resolve. No more half measures. I called in markers. Sarah's suit escalated to class action. Kara's piece dropped. Citing anonymous sources with the mistress pics blurred but damning. TechForge stock cratered 30%. Jake's face on CNBC was a mask of sweat and spin. December dawned gray and relentless. Holidays a farce as I holed up coding my escape pod. The AI prototype bloomed. A beast of machine learning that outstripped TechForge's vapor by miles. Ethical. Transparent. Freelancer first. I pitched it to a rival VC over Zoom. Voice steady. Call it Forge 2.0. But without the Forge fraud. They bit. Term sheet by New Year's. Lena jumped ship officially. Co-founder title waiting. But Jake?
He fought dirty.
Subpoenas flew mine. For breach of NDA. His lawyers circled. Sharks in pinstripes. I countersued. The forged waiver my Excalibur. Splashed across filings for maximum humiliation. The boardroom showdown was Christmas Eve. Snow dusting the valley windows like powdered regret. Jake at the head. Me at the foot. Air thick with cologne and contempt. This ends now. Anna. His voice cracked. Empire crumbling. I laid it out. Logs. Emails. The slush fund trail leading to FEC violations. Gasps rippled Mrs. Ellis's eyes hardened. You're done.
Harlan.
Twist, he cracked. Not with please, but rage. You think you're clean? That bridge wasn't an accident. Confession. He'd tampered. Guilt over the firing. Or fear. Motive murky. But the room exploded. calls to counsel. Security hauling him out in cuffs for the feds waiting downstairs.
Fraud. Tampering his kingdom ash.
As they dragged him, our eyes locked. Replaceable, he spat. I smiled.
Cold.
Not anymore. The fallout was biblical. A Silicon Valley apocalypse played out in headlines and hearing rooms. January thawed the snow, but not the chill in my bones. Tech Forge, now Harlan-free, teetered on bankruptcy's edge. Freelancers picketing the HQ with signs, "Pay us or perish." I watched from afar. My new office in a sunlit loft overlooking Elliott Bay. The rival VC's seed money humming like a fresh engine. Forge Reborn. We called it my baby. Resurrected without the original sin. Lena handled ops, her laugh echoing off whiteboards as we onboard the Exodus. Sarah, Tyler, redeemed, surprisingly, with a grovel and skills to offer. Even Claire, post-divorce, crunching numbers with a vengeance. Fuck him, she'd said over coffee, eyes fierce. Timmy deserves better. Sisterhood. Valley style, raw, resilient, occasionally ruthless. But victory tasted bittersweet, laced with the what-ifs that haunted my nights. That bridge confession? It unraveled him faster than any leak. Feds pieced it, tampered brakes. A gift from a shady mechanic on his payroll, meant as warning post-firing, not death. Irony, he'd intended scare, got manslaughter. Trial was a circus. Jake in orange jumpsuit, once golden boy reduced to teary testimony. I was protecting my family, he whined to the judge. Claire stone-faced in the gallery. The jury didn't buy it. 10 years. Minimum. Plus restitution that gutted his assets. I testified once. Voice steady under fluorescent glare. He built nothing. Stole everything. Catharsis? Partial. The scar remained. A phantom ache where trust used to be. Mom visited in February, her eyes widening at the view. Annabug.
This.
You did this. Pride swelled her voice, but worry creased her brow. No more bridges. Promise. I hugged her tight. The lie easier now. Swear.
Ma.
Grounded for good. We walked the waterfront, gulls wheeling overhead, her stories of Wisconsin winters a bomb. She'd never know the full truth, the death, the do-over. Some secrets stay buried, even in happy endings. Spring bloomed with green shoots. Forge Reborn hit 1 million users. Our algo fair and fierce. Payouts instant. No schemes. Kara Swisher interviewed me for her pod, the woman who burned it down and built it better, and I owned it. No apologies. Tech's a boys' club with girl-shaped holes, I said. Mic crackling. I filled one. Now I'm kicking the door down. Backlash came, trolls calling me vindictive bitch, Jake's fanboys doxing my handle, but so did the wave. Women demanding thanks. Devs offering resumes.
Power.
Real power. The kind that pays forward. Yet the controversial edges lingered. Ghosts in the machine. That Trojan? I wiped it clean pre-trial. But the subpoena ghosts whispered, accomplice. My lawyer spun it. Defensive auditing. Close enough. And the leaks? Morally gray. But in a world where whistleblowers get sainted or suicided, I slept sound. Jake's last letter from county lockup arrived in April. Scrawled on lined paper. You win,
Anna.
But was it worth it? The monster you became. I burned it in the sink. Flame dancing blue. Ashes swirling down the drain. Worth it? Every keystroke. Every lie swallowed. every bridge crossed. By summer, the platform valuation kissed 8 figures. IPO whispers turning to roars. I stood on my balcony one July evening. City pulsing below. A rare calm settling. Timmy's birthday invite arrived that week. Claire's doing tentative olive branch. I went, drone in hand, upgraded, with AI tricks. Watching him beam as it lifted off the lawn. No Jake. Just us misfits rebuilding. Thanks, Aunt Anna, he lisped, gap-toothed grin melting the ice.
Aunt.
Family. Redefined. As the sun dipped, painting the lake gold, I raised a silent toast to the dead me, the one who'd crashed and burned. This life? Messier. Meaner. But mine. Revenge wasn't the end. It was the forge, hammering weakness to steel. And in America's grind, where dreams die daily, that was the only happy ending worth a damn. Epilogue twist. Months later, a package thudded on my desk, an old USB, labeled Anna's Originals. Inside, the garage codebase. Untouched. Emailed from an anonymous sender.
Jake? Claire?
Didn't matter. It was proof. I'd created it all. I plugged it in, lines of code glowing like absolution. The circle closed, not with blood,
But bites.
and that, in the end, was the real billion-dollar platform, me.